This video is sponsored by Slytherin Games. A big thanks for supporting the channel and helping make this video happen. Hello everybody and welcome back to Field of Glory Empires. For those new to this game, Field of Glory Empires is a grand strategy title set a decade after the death of Alexander the Great from 310 BCE to 190 AC, where you'll play as one of over 70 factions to try and conquer the world. Today, I'll be focusing on 5 of the bigger features within the game that you need to know to understand the flow of empires. This game has quite a bit of depth to it, so knowing how its systems work will be crucial to the success of your campaigns. As always, let's dive in. First, let's go over resources, as this is what your empire needs to grow your cities and expand your armies. The 3 top bar resources are gold, manpower, and metal, and it's these 3 resources that are the primary powers behind your military. You'll use these resources plus equipment to recruit your soldiers, but it's only the top bar resources that are used for military generation and upkeep. The economy behind these resources works a bit differently from other games. For instance, looking at the top bar resources, I'll start queuing up soldiers for recruitment next turn. Recruiting 5 legions doesn't take away from the top 3 resources I already have, rather it takes off what I will receive next turn. This actually makes it quite handy to recruit armies even when your current turn's resource amounts might be a bit low. But anytime you want to see why you're making X amount of resource on the top bar, simply hover over them to get a nice breakdown of generation and expenditure. Heading into the city on the right hand side, we see the rest of our resources. Food is required to grow your population, infrastructure to build buildings, culture increases the loyalty of your population as well as contributes to your government progress levels, something we'll address later, and your equipment, as stated, is required to make troops. An interesting aspect of these resources is their ability to be stockpiled, noted by the silver bar on the left side of the resource. Every pop, every building, every troop or culture rating has a required amount to actually produce, and it's only when that stockpile amount is reached that the item in question gets generated. In the instance of armies and buildings, pausing production can generate a stockpile of both, giving you the ability to generate a lot of troops at once or build a building significantly quicker. There are some instances in my campaign where I've been able to build upwards of 20 plus units in a single area, and it's very fun to see a huge army just pop up after a single turn. The building system in Empires is one that I haven't seen before this game, and it comes off as a bit complex. Buildings are broken up into 6 categories that fill up the 4 slots of your cities. Agriculture and healthcare are combined in the food slot. Agriculture generates the food, healthcare decreases the food limit required to generate a new pop, and also helps fight off diseases and plagues. Military and infrastructure make up the infrastructure slot, though military does not actually contribute to infrastructure generation. Infrastructure is required to build your buildings and maintain them, while your military buildings can generate equipment, allow recruitment of different units, or even increase the limit of how many you can build. Commerce and culture get their own slots. Commerce is your money generator and, with some buildings, increases your trade efficiency, while culture, of course, generates culture needed to chill out your culturally unfriendly pops. Constructing buildings does not cost gold, only infrastructure. Your cities are limited in the number of buildings by the number of pops currently inside, though there are some buildings that do not actually take a building slot, and I always try to build those. What's unique about Empires is that you do not get to pick exactly what building you want in your city. Rather, you get a randomized selection partially based on what you've already constructed in that city. Just about every building I've come across in my campaign has been useful in one way or another, even if it's not precisely what I wanted. If you just don't see anything you like though, you can shuffle the entire stack at the cost of not being able to do anything in that city for 1 to 3 turns, which is not that bad of a deal in my opinion. This system actually works very well inside of Empires, and it spices things up a bit so you aren't building the exact same buildings in every one of your cities. Next, we look into the greatest power behind your empire's growth, population. Your population is made up of 2 classes, citizens and slaves. Your citizens can work efficiently in all areas and are generated from your food resource. Slaves are better placed in agriculture and infrastructure and are acquired through winning battles and sieges or through the slave market building. Moving your pops to any 4 of the rows I mentioned earlier will give you the modifiers in surplus or deficit in whatever areas they move to or from. As you can see here, if I move my pops from infrastructure to agricultural, my buildings will take longer to build, but my food increases, in turn generating my next pop quicker. While most of your buildings can produce their resources without help of your population, a competent strategist will see the advantage of moving pops to different slots throughout their campaign, catering to various cities' needs at the time. Your population does not just help generate resources though, it will also affect the loyalty of your cities. Each pop comes with an unrest factor. Pops of a different culture than your city will generate higher unrest, and slaves further that unrest even more. Should you end up with a lot of uncultured slaves in a city, the risk of revolt can become high. You can easily check the loyalty rating of any city in the top left of the city panel, giving you a handy breakdown of the risk of revolt. As mentioned a couple of times already, boosting your culture inside the city will slowly convert the populace and subdue them, reducing any risk of a rebellion. Armies in warfare are a rather large part of the game. After all, your three biggest resources are dedicated to recruiting and maintaining your army. When building your army, it's important to take a look at what you're doing before just trying to spam the best troops. Each unit has its own set of resources to recruit and maintain located at the bottom of the unit screen. Lighter units only require gold, manpower, and equipment. It's the heavier units that will need metal as well. The number of units recruitable inside a city or province is tied to all resources, however, which is why I suggested stockpiling something like equipment in your cities. You could have all the money, manpower, and metal in the world, but without equipment, you cannot recruit the most basic soldier. Units also have a whole set of stats, from combat power and unit speed to modifiers that make them better in sieges or perform more efficiently in different types of terrain. It's important to look at this since terrain plays a heavy role in warfare within this game. Spamming a bunch of units that don't do well in the mountains, and you're very likely to lose to a significantly smaller force in that type of terrain. Lastly, on unit recruitment, you're allowed in empires to recruit a limited number of more advanced troops before their cost goes up. Hovering over the asterisk with my legions, and we can see that I will have a 15% increase in unit monetary cost for every active unit of that type. This is simply a way to prevent you from making doom stacks of heavy troops and steamrolling through the map. Now, lower troop types, you can pretty much have as many as you want, though their combat power will not have as much effect. Warfare in empires takes up a different system as well. Within just the game, every battle is automated, though you can watch if you decide you'd like to see a more condensed version. The game plays with a dice roll tabletop format in various stages of battle. Within a few turns, if there's no victor, that battle ends, then you'll go straight into another battle. Rinse and repeat this process until enough of either army are broken, at which point there's an official winner. What's really interesting is if you own Field of Glory 2, a game that released just a couple of years ago. Should you own both games, you can actually export your army composition from Empires over into Field of Glory 2 and then play the battle manually, then export the battle results back into Empires. It's a really interesting system that I was initially very turned off by, but works really well, and I'll go into how that works in a later video. The last feature in this video is your nation panel. This panel contains a lot of information about your empire. You can get a broad overview of how your empire is looking in terms of wars, military strength, empire size details, and your economical choices. You can see modifiers or nation traits that are affecting your nation, decisions that you can take in the form of laws, events, or decrees, and objectives, which are specific regions your faction wants you to conquer. More importantly, you can view your progress decadence rating or your legacy standing. Your progress decadence rating has a massive effect on what type of government your nation is running. As much as I'd like to go into detail about it, I will have to leave you with a bit of a cliffhanger, as that also will be coming in a later video. Being able to see any of this information at a given time can help you solve why you might be seeing certain positive or negative effects throughout your empire. Not only that, but it can help you plan your future expansions, determine where to put your pops, what buildings you should pursue, and especially what regions you'll want to seek after next. And that about wraps up 5 features you need to understand in order to more effectively play Field of Glory Empires. While not all the features in this game, these are some of the most important and ones that you'll see the greatest effect from. I hope you learned a bit on the game and its inner workings. Do let me know what other aspects of Empire are leaving you scratching your head, and I'll see what I can do to potentially get more videos like this onto the channel. A big thanks again to Slytherin Games for sponsoring this video, it's greatly appreciated. Thanks to the community for watching this video. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more Empires content. This is Havoc, and I'll see you in the next one.